Now, how many developers do we have in the room? All right, great. How many strictly design visual people do we have in the room? All right, let's take him over. All right, well, that's great. In my day-to-day job at Microsoft, I spend a hell of a lot of time with you guys, the developers. And, the last 4 years working on this project, it has been an amazing experience being able to have a venue and kind of a common ground to pick your brain, your technical brain, because I love the way you think. And I believe that there's a lot to learn from you guys, from my aisle, side of the aisle type of thing. And a lot of guys like me did not have an opportunity until now to really talk to the hardcore, low-level, high-octane of human developers. And that's you guys. The real guys. You mean real application? Yes, I mean real applications. You don't mean stock tickers we see all over online? No. No stock tickers. I'm talking real applications. I'm actually quoting something I tell people when I explain what we're doing here. We're building real UI design tool, industrial strength design tool for, building user experiences on industrial strength application. Almost as much of a tongue twister as our name. Expression code name Sparkle Interactive Designer. But that's what we're doing. So, what's about all the names and the products? So, we're a suite of tools. We like to say the family of products. I don't know. It's a family of tools. So it's called Expression, just like you have Office. Office is not really a product by itself. It's a suite of tools. So when you start from look to functionality here, there's an axis horizontally. We start with Expression Graphic Designer, codename Acrylic, which you may have downloaded. We've been giving away a couple of versions already for free on the website, Microsoft.com/expression. It's a general-purpose graphics editing tool. Vectors, graphics, it has some really innovative ways of trying to erase the line between vector editing and bitmap editing. It's quite an interesting universe on its own. People have been making amazing artwork in there. So from Graphic Designer, you can export regular graphics like PNG files and things like that, or save the native format. You can also export to this XAML format. I don't know how many of you have heard of a XAML already? Yes, okay. This means that when a guy like me is using that tool, granted it doesn't have all the interactive stuff in Graphic Designer, but he can start building like the resources, the gradients, the logos, the things like that, the backgrounds for your controls, and give you a bunch of XAML bits that you, the developers, can start coding against. C#, VB.NET, Avalon application. Very cool. So that's Graphic Designer. Next, what you have, I'll go first to the Web Designer part at the bottom. I don't have much details on this for you, but basically it is our standards-based. I love saying standards-based because I'm a web designer as well. I just love the real CSS, real XSLT, real XHTML. No, pooping all over your code and things like that. So actually, this guy does a good job. I'd be the first surprised, but I'm really good. So hey, I'll move to that. Just move to that, and tell me, if I was wrong. I think I'm right. Quartz Web Designer tool with ASP.NET as support in it. And then we have Expression Interactive Designer, codename Sparkle, the one I'm talking to you about today. And that one, that one's cool. Yeah, that one's the one I worked on most. That one takes in XAML files coming from Graphic Designer Acrylic, or you can start from scratch and build up the UI in there. What's special about this tool compared to a graphic tool, a general graphic tool, is because it is for user interfaces. It knows about layout mechanisms. It knows about templates and resources and animation, triggers, data binding, everything. We tried the tool as much as we could out of the Avalon platform. And as many things that Avalon could support without code. You can get in there, drag and drop, click, and set properties, and it's quite amazing. So from there and with, you can work with Visual Studio because our project system is an MS Build project system. Meaning if you open Sparkle, create a new project with a blank scene and it has a grid element at the root, you save that, you could open that at any time using Visual Studio or C# Express, one of the Express suites. It's very powerful. Just that little piece there, that blank scene, means a lot. It means at any point in time, I can go back and forth between dev and design. And if I'm integrating into a source control thing, it's awesome. You can actually talk to the guy and say, hey, what about this? You can brainstorm together and think about the different elements you should use in your designs if you're a designer. Or if you're a developer, you should kind of give advice, be able to give advice to the designer and say, look at this part of the SDK. There's some interesting explanations about how to style buttons and, educate each other on what works and what skills you guys have on both sides. So all this stuff gets out to either Windows Vista or X-Platform and devices. Basically, it could be web application. So partial trust, web application, WBA, they call them, coming out of Interactive Designer, Sparkle, or out of Web Designer, you'll get websites and things like that. We will probably target Windows Presentation Foundation everywhere, the /E, which is supposed to work everywhere. And that's exciting. But that's, it's going to be a subset of Avalon. It's going to be great. But the full-on, massive app, full trust application, you can also create in Sparkle and work in Visual Studio. So the world before XAML. My world before 4 years ago when they told me, hey, we're making this new thing. My experience, and also watching people over the years inside Microsoft and our own products, because we have a lot of design people, we do a lot of throwaway prototypes. In a way, that's fine. If you're thinking through some new paradigms for UI, sometimes you just want to do a scratch pad and throw it away, and it's fine. When it gets to a point where, your team gathers and say, yeah, we're going to spend the next 6 months building a video. It'll be great. We're going to think through all kinds of issues for usability, some new motion styles, some new material types, metals and things like that. The problem there is that you are assuming the platform will support something. So for 6 months, you build videos. You make things just fly in, 1,000 things flying on the screen, and it looks wonderful. You probably get a green light from your VP. Everybody's happy. But is it possible to implement? You, the hierarchy of human, low-level coders, will tell them, you know what? You're either not educated or you're stupid, and then the war starts. The war starts. The designer comes in and says, no, you don't understand. It's a vision. It's a new thing. And, to you, as a practical person who's asking for the facts, this is all it's just wind. It doesn't sound like anything. The difference with our model is that me as a designer can start playing with the platform itself. I'll draw a few gradients. I'll try moving things around. If it's slow, then I know it's slow. It's like the architect that piles too many pieces of drywall and then all of a sudden everything falls down. It's like, gee, maybe I should have known what a piece of drywall was. I believe the pieces of Avalon, all these grid, slider, rectangle controls, you name it, all these are Lego bricks. I need to know what it is if I want to call myself a UX designer on the Windows platform. So these Lego bricks will help me also understand you and chat with you. And gain your trust as well. So I talked about the disconnect. There was a war there. And lack of control, lack of understanding even on what the UI code really means. Yeah, that video I told you about, if finally everybody tells you at the developer team, like it or hate it, you're going to do it. You're going to sit down and write that low-level assembler code, HLSL and all that, and whatever, C++, and you don't complain. So, You have still to go sit down and do it. Even if you put your will to it, what are you going to do? I mean, you got to sit down, calculate all the Bezier curves and the numbers, and you'll be proud of what you have maybe after a while. The design guys will look at it and say, what are you, crazy? This is off by 1 pixel. This is not good. This is not the same vision I told you about. And that's fine. That's important. That's what I do. The vision stuff. I love it. And you gotta respect that extra pixel he's telling you about. With here, the guy does it, And if he had a bad idea, the design guy, well, he'll probably realize himself and make 10 builds that same day. Iterate on his design on the platform itself without any, interaction with you if he has no question until it's really needed. So less meetings, So we're doing a life management system as well, It's going to change your everyday life. So iteration. No iteration when you just have just some pixels on the screen that really don't mean anything on the platform itself. What it means to have this thing, told you about it already. You can, if you want, prototype actual shipping code. If I sit down with one of the devs on my team, like John Gossman or one of the other guys, and start putting together a form, I know that I'm not doing this throwaway. I can just give it to him. He'll open it in any tool he wants. He'll say grid, resource, button, things like that. And he'll can code against it. I can change it later. It's going to work. It's all beautiful. Yeah, UI designer gets a front row seat. He gets to sit down with you guys and hang out and, eat the cold pizza in the morning and all that. I've learned a thing or two about developers over the last 4 years, and I love it. I love it all. You get your UI code changes reviewed by developers. So when, a guy on my team, a dev, makes a change in some C# somewhere, or XAML, it's also code. The procedure is you get somebody, hey, do you want to do a code review? It's real quick. It'll take a couple hours. Guy comes in. And we read every line. We open this difference tool, and we look at each line of code, and there's a discussion that starts. I love that discussion. A lot of times I realize, I need to change half of what I did. I need to get another review after that, but that's okay. You learn, and you really learn about the platform by looking at the bits with the devs and just kind of brainstorming on a whiteboard if needed. When the technical person reviewed my changes, or review the other coder's changes, then the person, submits it to the source control engine server thing. And it's fun because then your stuff gets everywhere else. There was no 6 months of email with PMs and 6 months with email with spec writing and thinking and all this waste of time. It's not waste of time, but when we know what the spec is, let's implement it. So, this is when it's really fast after that. Fast as in designers can work faster. What having the tool means, I told you about XAML. What having the tool means is that designers don't have to write this by hand. Now, do you want me to read that to you? No. Do you want to type this by hand? Even you guys. If you don't have no IntelliSense for you, just go and write it. Rotation 3, animation, keyframe, storyboard. That's the name of the tag. Then you have to write the properties after that. So designers have a steering wheel on top of Windows Presentation Foundation. And I say steering wheel as in really thin layer. We're not reinventing WPF. We're not giving you some kind of plugin, some kind of runtime. We don't have, DLLs that come with our stuff. It is just another dashboard on top of the same piece of code that you guys on the other side of the hallway are also touching. You guys have Visual Studio, and that's great. So it's tuned for you guys. You really like it. I'm a different type of user. I'm actually going to stop talking. I'll still talk because I can't stop, but I'm actually going to design a resizable UI. The conundrum of designing resizable UI. So I'm going to open a project on my disk. I must be nervous. I can't see the files. I need to stare at the screen for 10 seconds to see it, like it's right there, or it's right in front of me. It's funny. All right. So I have an application, and this is, by the way, this is codename Sparkle Interactive Designer. And I have a project open It's got some references. I don't need to know about this. It's got my application example that may contain some resources I want to reuse across the board. I have two scenes. I have a conversation window, and I have a scene here. Now, the look of this, I just kind of threw it together. Don't judge me from this design. But it's just kind of put together. Okay? But it's actually a fully functional, multi-window application. If I press F5, MS Build kicks in. It's not just for developers. It's also for me. And I have a window comes in. What do I have here? I have 3 names of approved names of for demos. You know, there's a website you type in, and there's a list of people I can use for demos. I can't make them up. So if you're Rich at Haddock, just, forgive me. You actually signed that paper that said I can use your name. If I double-click on the name, I get a double-click event that triggers some code that says open a new window. You heard code. You're like, wait, code? Yeah, I just walked in Peter Bloy's office, one of the superstar developers on Sparkle, and I said, how do you open a window? He's like, well, you type this, and then he gave me a post-it. I brought my office, typed in my editor. Boom, it works. So cool. I love it. And after 3 or 4 times opening Windows, I'll know how to write it. I'm not going to write some crazy architecture logics. You guys will still do that in 10 years. Believe me. It's just over my head. But anyways, opening a window, I can do that. Now if I start resizing, if I start typing stuff, that's funny. Say, what happened? Oh. Wait. A wiggly line. What is that? Wait, you coded some stuff there. I saw you. You coded something. Show me the code. What's happening is Avalon has this property on any text box. You can say, is spell check enabled, some kind of really long name like that. And if you turn it on, you can have spell checking from Word. I don't know where it is in the operating system, but it works. I don't need to know where it's coming from. And I really want to say awesomer, so I just said, just say that. Click on this. And he said, who cares? What is that? Where's it coming from? That's code. But that's easy code. So I'll show you the code in a minute. First, I'll try to resize my windows. And what's happening? So it's not doing just like scaling, so it's better than just scaling the whole thing. But it's still not doing what I want. I want this guy to grow. I want this guy to stay there. Anyways, fine, I'm going to try the other one now. The other one doesn't do what I want either. What do you do now? What do you do now? You're going to have to call the developer and say, that must be some code somewhere. I know it's this code thing I've always thought these hierarchy of people did. And now it's not. It's not. So I'll show you. If I select my elements using drawing tools, I select that guy, and he says, well, let me show you. It looks like here, you're stuck to this area at the top here. This is line here. It's kind of small, but you can, from where I am, you can see it. There's a little icon here. If I click on it, you can see it opens, it closes. It opens. Basically, it ties it or unties it. So I'll tie it. That's fine. That's great. I want the distance to the top to remain the same. Now, at the bottom here, it was unlocked. It wasn't tied. I want to tie it, and on the right, I want to tie it. What I did here is I changed a property called alignment that said now it's stretched horizontally and stretched vertically. And it has some value, hard-coded values. Top is 37 pixels. That's what I had up there. But I never had to type this. I didn't need to. Yeah, I just want to play with it. So this is great. I can test it right here. Ooh, it's tied to the right. It's set to the top. It's magic. It's what we call the grid editing UI. Great. It's a grid at the root of the document, by the way. If I open my conversation window now, there's a little bit more going on. If I resize my window, it's doing what I showed you earlier. Note that I didn't have to compile it. I just kind of see it right there. Fine. I don't like that. So what I do is I can create a, I can select my elements again and say, actually, you know what? Let me go resize the document root to make it smaller. I want these things to stay like this, okay? So I just select one guy here and say, boom, you're tied to the bottom. And this guy, you're not tied to the top. and you're not tied to the top. Not tied to the top. What happened now? It doesn't work. Hold on. I'll get it to work. Just selected the wrong element in the tree. I have to know about elements in the tree. I need to educate myself about Avalon. That's fine. Check it out. Now it's working. It's doing what I want. Shocking. Now, I didn't explain what people did before this, or people do today. Maybe you know. The design guy is going to make either a huge ping file that contains a bunch of previews of how the application should look at multiple sizes. Most of the time, there's a case that's missing in there, because, I'm more driven by emotions and desires and vision, not really by, what are the facts, and I want to know the history about this feature, and then I'll sit down and write something. Because it's different people, So here, I can play with it, say, yeah, that was really stupid. Quickly, right away. And I can give you the files, and you can see it resizing over there. You could have written the code before or after. It doesn't really matter. All right. So I got this guy and this guy doing the right thing. Now, what if I want more? Everybody wants more. Always. I go in there. And if I say, well, there's actually 3 rows. I really want to have this in the middle. I want this row of buttons. And that's going to make our layout problem complicated. You may think, well, this is where it stops. This is where I need to step in to try to fix the problems. Little did you know that we have more cooking in there. If I resize this guy up, and I'll say, you're still stuck to the bottom there, and I can create grid lines. So if I roll over this area there, it's going to preview what kind of grid lines I can create. In XAML, if you played with grid, it's called row definition and column definition. I'm going to create a new one of those. Boom. Create one of them here. Great. Now I have one in the middle, and I can create an element in there like a container. If I open my library, I can see everything Avalon has, every control available. Either what the system has, presentation framework, or I could have some DLLs that I import in my projects. DLLs, people! DLLs! The visual guy playing with DLLs! Sacrilege! It's crazy. You make a DLL, custom controls, Avalon controls, super slick with a template property on them, you're really proud. Throw it over the wall to the guy. He'll import it there. He'll be able to draw your control by hand and say, I want to make a new template for this guy. He'll be able to do it. He won't break your code. He doesn't even touch your DLL. How cool is that? Come on, man. Maybe I'm the only one excited about this. But you will be soon. You will be, believe me. So the row in the middle, what do I want here? I'd like a stack panel. I create a stack panel. It's a container that stacks its children. Something I had never the chance to use before. The whole word layout, to most designers, layout, they think it's the application workspace because they never had a chance to play with layout before, layout rules and things like that. Generally, they'd open their tool, they'll write some scripting, a few hundred lines every time they open the tool, to write how things stack on top of each other. Because, it's not something I was able to play with before. So, if I make this guy active, basically make it the current, container is going to receive my children, then I can go and create some buttons in there. So, just a button from Windows, from Avalon. Oh, it's styled. What happened? Well, prior to creating this button, I had created a template for button type. It's called target type equals type button. If you type this in XAML, in the resources of your application, every button type is going to grab this and use it. You don't even have to type anything on the instance tag of the button. That's what I did. I created a button tag, no style defined on it, no template defined on it, but it picked up the template, the target type. So I got this button, and if I copy and paste it, let me just change something here. My stack panel did vertical stack by default. That's fine. I got a layout palette here that allows me to say, you're actually horizontal. Okay, so now if I double click on this baby and paste a few times, now button stack. Okay. Alrighty, so now, what happens if I resize my application? Hold on. So that's not what I want. It's not what I want at all. So I say, you know what? Stuck. It says height equals value. It just like, I'd be able to set my row to a certain height. And notice that when I created that green line, it figured out, well, the guy at the top is actually row equals 0 now, row span equals 0. All these values that you change in XAML by hand or from code from C#, I can go in there just one click, one click, one click. Every time it sets 8 to 10 values everywhere, margins and all that. Now, you'd need these values. It's not values that are redundant. You'd have to write them anyway. Now, if I resize again, it is working, kind of. The bottom area gets a little small, but it's doing what I want. It's doing proportional scaling of the height of this and the height of this. What if I want just the top to resize? Nothing easier than locking the row at the bottom now. Now it works. Now you're looking at this, you're like, who cares about designers? I want this now, and it's for development purposes. You can use it fine. The whole CIDR thing is not coming for a while, so have fun with it. Now, some of the tools in there don't behave like developers expect them to behave. So, have fun with it. Don't swear at it because something doesn't work too well. Just look at the help. And most of the chances are that behavior you think is stupid and nobody would discover it is in every design tool out in the planet. And people in usability studies were like fine with it. So, you have to know your users, and you have to tell other people, warn them who the user is. But I'm sure you can have fun with this. So anyways, I got my forms ready. And you were able to see that I didn't really need a paper prototype or some kind of series of bitmaps and series of long meetings to explain how this thing is going to resize. I can go in there at any point in time, check out the file, play with it. Oh, you want to see the code maybe? You guys do the code thing, right? So I can open C# in there too. Sacrilege. We don't have everything VS has because we're not, again, we're not generally for all the things you need as developers, but you can actually see the code and play with it a little bit. So I have an open conversation window method, and he knows about opening a new window and show it. And that's about it. Okay. So you saw how designer would go and build a resizable UI for you guys. Then styling Avalon controls. You briefly saw that button that was already styled, and I explained what was happening there. But it was kind of a static, just a rectangle in there, just for demonstration purposes. Avalon is much richer than that. It has everything from 3D, 2D, video, audio, text, everything. I want to use that. So I'm going to talk to you about the templates, some of the trigger stuff, states, storyboards, some data binding as well. Okay. So this is a little application I put together, a couple hours, just to show what's the most gratuitous way of demonstrating the styling thing. Make sure it has no purpose to it. Make sure it's not an application people will be able to use. I'm sure they would love this. I mean, as a hobbyist, what do you do at home? Do you do product catalogs? Maybe. But, I get excited by stuff that just means something to me. I just like playing with the technology. I just don't necessarily want something that would get some kind of funding at a venture capital firm. But anyways, here, what you see in front of you is, in the background, a viewport 3D, which is a view onto a 3D world. It's like a result plane of a camera. It's almost like you put a TV screen in there. The element itself is just a 2D surface, but it contains all these objects. In front of it, you have a wrap panel. Actually, you have a scroll viewer. A scroll viewer allows you to scroll the area when it gets clipped. And I went in there, created a wrap panel. Wrap panel wraps its children. Inside that, I put a bunch of radio buttons. Can you see if those are radio buttons? I don't think so. Those don't look like radio buttons at all. It's because radio button is just a type of control. You can retemplate it. Template means you can go and have fun with it. So if I launch this application, F5, MS Build, where are you? And it's running. It's kind of a low resolution monitor. There's some animation in the background. I can resize down the application, and I can see that my radio buttons gets wrapped to the next line. Again, you're beyond like the video thing, or even just kind of like the prototype, the limited functionality prototype. And so how many lines of code do you think this uses? Like who thinks it's less than 100? No, but I think you guys already know Avalon. That's why you busted me. Okay, some people, you wrote some code, probably less than 100. More than 100? No, okay, you know Avalon too well. They already briefed you. You already drank Kool-Aid. There's no code in there. No code. What do you mean no code? Hey, XAML supports all this stuff. You can write in XAML. So we don't output any code for this. You can go write it if you want, but, I don't know. I don't want to do that. So I resize my app, and it knows, and I can play a lot with this. This is really soothing. Now what happens if I click on these babies? Now it looks like just some kind of graphical, artsy thing. I click on, what happened? That's when I'm really happy. It just kind of dances around. It's fluid, like 60 frames per second. Holy moly, with 3D behind, text at the top, data binding maybe, or whatever. So my radio button had a template. Template is not just a visual thing. Template contains, well, it's visual, but it's not just a static piece of tree. It contains also a series of storyboards if you want. Storyboards are really powerful ways of animating your UI. Storyboards, to work, need some kind of trigger, an event trigger, so that, is mouse enter? Mouse enter, okay, fire this up. It'll begin the timeline. Mouse leave, fire this up. Got focus, lost focus. There's about 100 or more events directly in there by default. If you bring one of your magic DLLs in there, I believe we'll show the million events you like to put and gives you a designer to play with. It's just extensible stuff. What if I go to the next one, and the next one, and up and down, and up and down, and up and down? Now I'm really happy. It's fun, isn't it? My 2 storyboards had 2 triggers on them, and I think it's got focus and lost focus. There's other things like checked and unchecked on radio button that you could use. What happened is, how comes you're triggering these keyframes, but they don't replay that animation from the beginning? What are your keyframes like? Well, unlike what people used to, timelines do not mean that you have to hard code keyframe. That means that it's bad for coders. The timelines in there are just the storyboards in Avalon, which are, very code-oriented things. They're just changes in time. And you can have no keyframe at the time 0 for this animation. Follow me, you'll understand in a few minutes. If you animate from whatever value it was to a certain value at 1 or 2 seconds, then it will pick up the value it was in before and just interpolate within 2 seconds to that other value you hard-coded. It's really powerful because you can have multiple timelines triggered at the same time, handing off each other. So, I want to talk to that guy. You're moving. Okay, wait. Okay, I grab him from here and move it right here. I know it's right here now. And this other guy comes in and says, no, I want to talk to him now. And the guy can dance back and forth. It looks like procedural animations. It looks like what my friends, the designers, have been writing for years in script. And, you have to be like a really serious, amazing, developer to write these things right, all these timing engines and all that. You don't want to write it every time either. So I know folks who write it all the time. Do they like it? I don't think so. Most of the time they just do it because they think it's the best way, and this probably is today. But here anyways, I'm going back and forth, and it just works. And those are just radio buttons, my friend. If you inspect this tree and you're looking for some bad type that designer did, bad designer, you'll just find radio buttons in there in your code. You're like, what happened? This thing danced all over the screen. I saw it. I know it. But you just witnessed the power of Avalon. So let's look at this baby. I'll zoom on one of them and look at its template. I'll drill a couple of times to get to my thing here. Now I can edit the template. Boom. By itself. although I see the rest of the stuff around it, my timeline, basically my visual tree is not cluttered with stuff. Can you read? Oh, maybe if I zoom my vector UI, DPI independent, you'll be able to see. Can you read now, or do you want it a little bit larger again? I'm just showing off, People love it. This is where they say, yeah, demo you did, everything was okay. That was just awesome. I don't care anything you talked about. That was just awesome. Can you do it again? I mean, it's useful. High DPI screens will show you that this feature is good, because minuscule you'll be able to read it because it'll be print DPI. Or the rest will look bloated and scaled and not and resampled, all blurry. Or tiny and small because they don't know about high DPI. So anyways, if I go into this template, I see a visual tree. It has a viewport 3D. And I can see if I open a properties palette, you can inspect the object and see it's a system, Windows, control, viewport 3D. Great. Camera, blah, 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 blah. Now, on mouse enter, I see two tabs here. What are they? They're storyboards in my template. I click on these babies, and now I see that there's an animation that goes from whatever height and width you are to some hard-coded values. How magic is that? Now, I can zoom in a little bit on the time as well. That's where you're like, you really need to put this in? I don't care about this. And I say, who are you? Are you a designer? You are not. This is not for you. This is for you, but not everything is for you. So, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, a lot of things in VS, I would never know what they are because you'd need 3 days to explain to me, and I would never get it. That's great. Do these features make sense? They're great. They're awesome. Just not the developer. So I zoomed in my time so I can tweak my half a second, so I don't need to open 5 bugs on you saying it's a quarter of a second too long. And you're like, who cares? Quarter of a second? Damn it! I have 50 crashing bugs. They're probably one. I gotta fix them before we ship. So you can send it back to your designer and say, open freaking Sparkle. Fix it yourself. I just come up with these things. But actually, they're life story. They're real. I didn't get anybody angry at me, but I have taken bugs from developers and say, looks like you can figure that one out. Because it was just XAML or very, very little C# in there. Okay, if I scrub back and forth, it's actually moving. I can see it right away. No compilers. Just look at it and see if it makes sense or not. I have height and width basically on my viewport being expanded. And because of the wonderful layout system, it's also pushing my buddies there, my siblings. All right. Now there's another one called mouse leave. Click on this one. It goes from wherever you are to a value again. It's a little bit longer. And it doesn't do anything because it says, the hard-coded value is actually what you are right now. So you don't see anything. That's cool. So that's pretty much what I want. Now, how do these things get started? There must be some code, right? I have no code in there, so I'm not going to ask you. But if I open my timeline properties, I can see there's a trigger. What does trigger say? It says the target element, which is basically my guy, my baby, my radio button. What event do I want? Well, you got 50,000 to choose from. And you know all of them what they do, right? You do. You're one of those developer guys. They're smart. They know all of it. Lost focus. I realized that actually even the smartest developers tell me, what you say you don't understand. I don't understand it either. Let's just figure it out together. It's great because then I understand what you guys are. You may still be wonderful kind of human, but we can still be at the same plane at the same time. I think that's healthier than just thinking that something will happen in this dark world of development. You're getting the insider vision of where I'm from. All this stuff just seems so foreign to me before working with you guys. So what do we want to do on lost focus? I want to begin that timeline. And mouse enter has two of them. It says when you get the focus, you begin. When you lose focus, you end. It's a series of triggers. Makes total sense. So now, you saw some templates, basically some states, some animations, and things like that, and how they get triggered. I'm going to show you some of the data binding stuff kind of quickly. I'll close this project. Data binding, there must be some code in there. I bet there's some code. Sounds like a coder thing. A data binding can be fun, So, if I create a new project, First, you will see how sometimes, because of this new data binding thing that they have in Avalon, they have it all across the platform. There's something called element property binding. I don't exactly know what the formal name is, but basically anything in your tree could have its properties, any properties bound to any properties on another object. It means the types match or whatever. And that stuff sounds like a load of coding to me. So you saw there's XAML for it. Now we have UI for it as well. So let's say I create a text box here. This is actual rich text box control from Avalon. And that's fine. Now I'm going to create a little slider. It must be one of those thousands of elements. Little slider at the top. Got this guy. This guy has a minimum, a maximum, a value, has all these properties. And this guy has the font size. Gee, I wonder what I can do with this. If I go to my properties palette, I can see everything Avalon has, again, and say, got something called font size? I can't read it. Can I make it a little bit bigger? Just showing off again. Now, I click on any property. I'll get some kind of menu that says, do you want to apply a resource to this? Go ahead. Or you want to apply a system resource to this, like the window, background, color, chrome, whatever. One of the, many things in a theme. It's available through that. So you can be making a consistent application with the operating system that user is using. If they have a different theme, you can bind to the colors that the value is going to change then. So it's very cool stuff. So no more kind of static ping files you have to renew every 6 months because it's, well, I guess Microsoft's shipping in your Windows again. Or, yeah, they're shipping in your Windows. Create data binding on font size. What do you want? Click on those real 3D icons now. That's gratuitous. That's fun. No, I'm sorry. But we just wanted to push it. We got some 3D in there. Hey, just throw it in. I had drawn this cylinder to show the data source. And people on my team were like, well, that really kind of 3D looking thing? Maybe you can put a 3D object in there. So I said, but 3D in a UI? You're crazy. We can't ship that. Well, we may just ship that, actually. So those are actually all 3D. The arrows using the extrude function that we have in a future version of the product. And I think the cylinder, I could have extruded in there, but I imported it from Maya. Because I use Maya, I like it. We don't mind people using the tools to make the objects. I want an element property, not a data field. I'm not talking to any kind of service or anything. Element property means select an element and a property. If you find your way through the properties, there's something called value in there. It's a double. I can tell them to be two-way binding, one-way binding, once, all that stuff. Finish. What happened? I don't see anything. We'll see it in 5 seconds. I select my slider. I want some values to be set on this. So if I say, your maximum is going to be 300. If I click on numlock, it'll work. Maximum, minimum is going to be 10 or 5, and then they have actual value, which is going to be 20. All right. So now if I build my application, I have to save it. I must build to the rescue. Start typing and say, hey, If I slide this thing, what happened? Data binding. Marvelous. Woo! Can't read it anymore. Woo! What's up with that? So I'm a designer guy, and I'm making this thing with like this long XAML file. If I hit it and show you in C# Express, I could like be proud and say I'm a developer now. Look at what I wrote. Can you write this? It took me 5 seconds. Now that's pretty cool. I can type whatever. I can drag and drop. What do you mean drag and drop? Yeah, it's a real text box. I can tab between them and start changing that as well. I have this small change value where right now I'm using my keyboard. I'm tabbed 2. I focused on the slider using my keyboard. And I could set value to be a little higher to be faster. But basically, you have fully accessible UI. So gone are the days of, well, I could let my designer play with it, but it's not going to be accessible. I don't think so, because that's going to take me a week to do. And it's not going to be localizable. And, well, XAML is highly localizable, and, it's all really cool. All that stuff's taken care of for you. So you saw some data binding. Basically, any element, any property to any element of any property of any element. All right. Now the other type of data binding, because many of you would say, that's not data binding. Data means data. There's some data somewhere, some table. I want to see some grid or some kind of stuff in there. I can do that too. So I can go and add a new data source to my project. It speaks English to you, a little paragraph that explains what to do. XML data source. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to import one in my project. So I'm going to add a new item to my project. It could be a DLL. Hey, why not? That's what John gave me, with some cool new layout in 3D or whatever. Instead, I'm going to try to find on my friend's computer my project for the presentation. And I have data project here, XML file. Now it's in my project folder here. Cool. So now I can refer to it very quickly by just typing this name. So I can say add an XML data source and say data.xml. Okay. Oh, what's that? Oh, I can see what's in there. There's some application details. Oh, some title, some copyright. That sounds really serious. It's the name. So that's all. If I grab that guy, I'm dragging right now. On my scene it says, what do you want to do with it? Do you want a text box? Do you want a label? That sounds good. I'll do a label. What field do you want to bind to it? Well, content means just the content of it. Could be binding to its height. I don't know. If it was a rectangle, for example. Okay. And it says, what do you want to do with it? It's this thing called data template in Avalon. And data template allows you to have, maybe there's different types of data coming in. There's some books, there's some TVs or something, and you want these rows to look different. So from this dialog, from this feature in Avalon and dialog, you can tweak these things. But for now, I really just want the default. The preview looks good. I say, okay, it says space vehicles. Now from here, I can change the text properties to be a little bit bigger. I can make it bold, whatever. And I can drag other pieces of data. So Copiero is just my name in there. But anyways, it's just, I worked on some 3D models, so I'm building a little gallery and to browse through my renderings, actually, my little previews of my vehicles. I have a collection vehicle here. It says N. There's a number. There's something in there. And there's multiple views, a background, and then if I drag this collection here, it says, what do you want? It's a collection. Maybe you want an items control. Maybe you want a list box. Maybe a combo box. I want a list box. Okay, item source. That just means, where it's going. You can see we're really literal here. We're not guessing for people. We're asking, what do you want? All the time. Because what do they want? We don't know, So I really don't want that preview here. That looks bad. It looks like a path to an image here. So I want to say, I really want to have a new data template. I don't want this either. So I really want just the name, and I want to have view 1, and that looks like an image. So what do you want for that guy? Gee, maybe an image. I can have a preview of my thing. It's a space vehicle. I love space vehicles. I make models, 3D models. I just kind of doodle around at home. I just love it. My background is 3D. That's what I used to do a lot, and I'm doing more than ever now because when I have time. Okay, that's great. I got a list box here, and if I scroll up and down, I can see I have multiple items in there, carrier model 1, fighter model 1. But image is a little too big. So what do? Do you call your friend designer and say, can you open your tool and painfully make thumbnails because, I'm sure when they resize down, they look all crappy. They won't resample right. Well, Avalon is a little bit better than what you thought. They actually resample images very well. So I can right-click on my list box and say, I want to edit an other template, which is, there's a template in there called item template. I want to edit this baby. So now, I see I have an image and a text block inside a stack panel. That's what I generated by drag and drop. Very cool. Select the image. I want to make it smaller. I can zoom out and scale this guy down. It's really big. All right, hold on 1 second. By the way, I probably will run out of time, as usual, but there's a track lounge over there, a giant plasma TV we hijacked from the team next door, and I'll be just freestyling all day on it. So if you want to come over, play with it, ask me any questions. The team is in a hands-on lab as well. And make sure to check out the other obscurely named session, something with designer tool in it. I don't know what it is. Hold on. I'm going to get this thing working here. All right, so I resized my image to be a little smaller. Now my atom has an image that's smaller. If I press F5, it should show all of them to be smaller. It doesn't, just forgive me. Okay, it does. Okay, so now I have a data-bound list. If I select these babies, it shows my Space Fighter Model 1. I could make a template that says, ooh, you got selected, grow. And it would grow and show my thumbnail bigger. You know, you could go really deep with this. It could be 3D perspective as well when it comes in, still data-bound. You could go very deep in there and do all in the tool here and tweak the code behind as you go. So, okay. Now, sessions you should attend, Peter Faraday, which you probably missed, it was this morning. And John Gossman's PDC session, how we built this thing. What does it mean? What was great, you know, the things we learned. Very cool session, you should go. Play with expression, direct Sparkle, at the hands-on lab, and talk to us over there. Watch the channel line video. There's 60 minutes in-depth talk. It's very fun. And that's it. Thank you very much. And I hope you've learned a lot about the tool. Thank you.